Hello there my fellow Holotable heroes and welcome to another Omicron ranking video. I've already done 3 in this series, so the first 2 covered top 10 most overrated Omicrons for offense and defense, and then I've done also top 10 most underrated Omicrons for offense. So this is the last one in this series because we will be looking at top 10 most underrated Omicrons for defense. Now I won't get too much into how data was gathered, how I calculated the final scores. I've done that already in the first video, so there'll be a link in the description below if you're interested. But just to summarize, I didn't just look at the impact rates, because that would be the most impactful or least impactful, but I also combined it with adoption rates as well, and that's how we get the overrated and underrated scoring. And also, before we get into the actual countdown, just to give you averages. So on average, an Omicron will increase the hold rates in 5v5 by 7.72%, and in 3v3 it will increase the hold rates on average by 7.91%. So just something to bear in mind as we will be looking at the figures in the top 10. Okay, so let's begin finally the countdown from top 10 to top 1 of most underrated Omicrons for defense.
What's wrong with that protocol droid is?
So starting off at number 10, we have 000. A bit surprised to see him here because I don't find his Omicron too useful, but we look at, I guess, at the figures and found out why that is. I also need to actually remind myself what it does. So torture inflicted from this ability lasts for 2 turns. Now this sounds useful because, you know, having torture just lasting 1 turn basically drops off straight away. And then if BT is an active ally, always is, you also recover 20% health and protection. And if this ability defeats an enemy, you get stacking offense. But anyway, it's BT usually doing all the defeating, not Trip here. So I would say the only impactful thing from this Omicron could be that the torture lasts for 2 turns. That could be useful, I guess. Looking at the figures, it's a very low adoption rate, hence why probably it is here. So only 12.29% people apply this Omicron. It's a free only Omicron though, so no scoring 5v5. And then in 3v3 it increases the hold rates by 7.66%, so just a little bit below the average, which gives it a final score for defense 31.17.
An ancient and powerful foe you are.
And at number 9, one of my favorite Omicrons, Treya's one. So interesting to see her at number 9. I thought that she might not be on top 10 at all because of, you know, high adoption rate, but I guess it's just such an impactful Omicron. Even with a high adoption rate, it still cracked the top 10. Again, no needs to really probably to talk about this Omicron. It's really powerful. It really boosts any sort of non-galactic legend Sith squad. It has its limitation versus like Dark Side Galactic Legends, because remember we were beating Lord Vader with this initially before it was nerfed. Anyway, let's not dwell on the past and let's look at the figures. So the reason why this is at number 9, it has a very high adoption rate at 94.57%. However, in terms of the hold rates in 5v5, it increases the hold rates by 33.22%, which is, you know, more than 4 times the average. And then a similar story on 3v3, a little bit less impactful, but still increases the hold rates by 26.75%, giving it a final score of 31.71.
Why so much anger, my child, you have?
So coming in at number 8, Third Sister, also known as Ariva, making the top 10 of most underrated Omicrons. Now, she didn't look great when we were doing top 10 of most overrated Omicrons. So the 2 Omicrons that she has are overrated, but obviously the key one, which the only one I applied anyway, is the leadership. So this is the one that comes at number 8 of most underrated Omicrons for defense. Essentially what it does a couple of things, but the main thing it does that whenever an enemy dispels, they get death mark on them applied for 2 turns, which can't be resisted or dispelled. So very powerful mechanics. Now let's look at the figures. So the adoption rate for this one is 83.99% people. So I guess to those 15% players that have a relic Riva that didn't apply this Omicron on her, what are you doing, guys? Slap it on. So in terms of the defensive holds, it increases in 5v5 the win rate by 48.33%. So even better than Treya. However, in 3v3, for some reason it drops, that increases the win rates only by 6%. And I guess Inquisitors, you really need a full 5 team, to get the use of the firepower they pack. In 3v3, not as much, I guess. So this gives this Omicron the final score of 31.98.
Out of the shadows, you appeared.
And at number 7, Starkiller makes appearance. So it's this one here is unique, obviously similar like a Riva. The other Omicrons were in the top 10 of overrated, but this one really is in the top 10 of underrated. Even though it's such a powerful one, it's so impactful that still comes in as underrated, which is really interesting to see. It also cracked top 10 on the offense Omicron as well. Something obviously to point out. Really useful Omicron, very good. Let's look at the adoption rate, 96.39% people. So nearly everybody that have Relic Starkiller, that did slap this Omicron on him. In terms of the defensive holds, it increases the defensive holds by 23.44%. And in 3v3, even better hold rates, it increases it up to 38.6%, giving it a final score of 32.18.
This is what a real freedom fighter looks like not.
And at number 6 we have Saw Gerrera. Especially for the past 4 months we've been tormented by the Chirrut Cron in combination with Omicron and Saw. I didn't apply it yet. I was about to, but then I turned all my attention to getting Malicos, all 3 of his Omicrons applied. So I was out of Omicrons. I do finally have now one, but because Chirrut Cron is expiring, I'm not sure how good this Omicron still will be. However, it is here in top 10 of most underrated Omicrons, which means it's still impactful, even obviously without Chirrut Cron, because this takes the data from past 10 seasons or so. So the impact of Chirrut Cron is not as big as you would think on the actual data. It's quite a lengthy one. I've never read it. I mean, I've read it once, but it's such a long one. I don't remember what it does. I just don't bother studying. I just go in and hopefully I beat the enemy. Now let's look at the rates. So only 37.76 people applied this one, so quite low adoption rate. Hence again, why it's being underrated. In terms of the actual impact on the defensive holds, it increases defensive hold by 11.29%. Remember, the average is about 8-ish%, so above average. In 3v3 even more, it nearly doubles the average at 15.06%. So actually, even without Chirrut Cron, maybe this is still worth a look if you obviously don't have any other more impactful Omicrons that you still need to apply. And this gives it a final defense score of 34.89.
Oh no! Trap again! This is...
And at number 5 we have Admiral Akbar's Omicron. Now Akbar made already an appearance in top 10 most underrated Omicrons for offense. Same thing again here on defense. So essentially does a lot of things, gives us tenacity up, and then as well gives us some turn meter, health recovery, and it calls 2 allies to a seat, not just 1. It increases their cooldown, so it does a lot of things. So I guess not surprised to see it here. Let's look at the adoption rates, and the 35.35%, so quite low adoption rates in combination with above average defensive holds. So it increases the holds by 13.18%. in 5v5, and in 3v3 it increases 13.6%, giving it a final score of 37.88.
This droid, a big malfunction, does have.
And at number 4 we have the other part of Afra's droids, so same like Trip there. A little bit surprised to see BT here, because I wouldn't imagine it's too impactful, his Omicron. Again, same like the one from Trip, limited to 3v3 only. Let's actually see what it does, because I don't really know. So whenever BT or Trip defeat an enemy, their cooldowns are refreshed and they gain 30% turn meter. Doesn't really well, okay, their cooldowns are refreshed, I guess that's nice. You can keep reapplying torture as BT is defeating enemies, but in 3v3 there are only 3 enemies anyways. Last one doesn't count, right? So this really gives you 2 instances when BT kills somebody off to gives you a boost. So it doesn't really sound all that impactful. So let's look at the actual figures. So the adoption rate is very low for this one, even lower than Trip. 10.4% people only apply this one. No obviously impact on 5v5. And then in 3v3 it increases the hold rates by 8.38%, so just slightly above average. So I guess that's why it's kind of very underrated Omicron, because not many people applied it, even though it's kind of average in terms of the impact. And then the defensive score that we get for this is 40.31.
There much kindness in you there is.
And coming in at number 3, Princess Leia. So same like Akbar, making a period both in offense and defense, top 10 most underrated Omicrons, which, spoiler alert, it's because of the low adoption rate, right? Like Akbar. Again, it does a lot of things, gives us extra retribution and tenacity up. Yeah, tenacity up, working together, I guess, with Akbar there and the buffs and everything. And as well, we get protection and health recovery for all other rebel allies, not just for herself. This was a pretty versatile, I guess, Omicron, boosting any sort of a rebel squad. Again, if you look at the figures, only 21.41% people apply this Omicron. In terms of the impact, it increases the hold rates by 9.22% and in 3v3 by 10.56%. So a little bit above average, combination with low adoption rate, hence why being at number 3. And this gives it a final score of 46.19.
The rule of the 2 established you have.
And at number 2, coming in, Darth Bane. Now this was an absolute shocker to me, but maybe it's not because of, I guess, the current datacron that Bane has, so maybe it's a little bit skewed. So it's his Whirlwind special. So this is the Omicron that we all suggest not to apply. It's not useful at all. However, I guess if you do put Bane on defense under Sith Eternal lead, then I guess it kind of makes sense, because then Sith Eternal's obviously ultimate charge charges almost instantly in combination with this ability. But again, maybe slightly skewed by the current datacron, so we'll have to wait and see in a few months' time if it's still so high up or not. Definitely a huge surprise here, but once you think about it, I guess it makes sense. You put Sith Eternal, then you put Bane under him. But the issue with putting Bane on defense is then kind of his unique that's really powerful kind of gets taken away. So I don't know. Let's look at the figures. So 30.10% people applied this Omicron. So it's a pretty decent adoption rate for, you know, what we think it's more or less useless Omicron. And on 5v5, the win rate, the defensive hold rates are increased by 11.13%. And check this out, in 3v3, it increases the hold rates by 30.56%. So yeah, if you are putting your Bane on defense, then looks like this is a must-have Omicron as well for him. But then if you're putting your Bane on defense, then don't put the rule of 2 Omicron. So, you know, you can save an Omicron there. But putting Bane on defense, I don't know, Bane is so much fun to use on offense. So this gives it a final score of 79.26.
When hard it gets, knowing right from wrong, you must.
And at number 1, guys, I'm not trolling you here. This is not a scam. It's Rose Tico again. So she was number 1 of most underrated Omicrons for offense, and again number 1. So it's the most underrated Omicron both on offense and defense. It's an Omicron that I've personally been eyeing out already to try and apply it, but it just seems like there are a lot more other units always more present there. But again, it does a couple of things, but most importantly, it contributes to the Terminator training for resistance that keeps rolling. Anytime you score a crit, they get 5% Terminator resistance allies, so that is absolutely huge. Once these guys get going, it's hard to stop them. Now the very low adoption rate, 8.26% people only applied this Omicron. In terms of the actual impact on the rates, so similar like on offense, slightly above average impact. So on 5v5 it will increase defensive holds by 9.53% and in 3v3 by 9.06%. Remember the average is about 8%. Slightly above average Omicron in terms of the performance, but very low adoption rate. That's why it's the number 1, so the most underrated Omicrons for defense as well, with a final score of 112.51. And there you have it, guys. That's top 10 of most underrated Omicrons for defense. Some surprises in there, actually lots of surprises in this one. It just shows that, you know, lots of those lesser known Omicrons appearing in top 10, and then some of the well-established ones like Riva and Starkiller. Those you're kind of surprised to see here, and Trey as well, because they are so impactful. You would think that everybody has those Omicrons already, but just shows that even a good Omicron, even with a high adoption rate, it's still the best, almost the best, because it's so impactful. Just looking at the figures again, so in 5v5 the most impactful was actually Riva. So in 5v5 it increases defensive holds by 48.33%, whereas the most impactful in 3v3 on defense was actually Starkiller, increasing hold rates by 38.60%. So some interesting findings here. So hopefully this top 10 for their here underrated Omicrons maybe has some gems for you in here that you're like, oh, I have a couple of spare Omicrons, who should I apply to? Maybe this will help you out a little bit, make some decisions if you're figuring what to do. But remember, we are constantly bombarded with new teams. We have Jar Jar coming and his Gungans. I'm pretty sure all those Omicrons will be great. We have Queen Amidala coming as well. She will need some Omicrons. For those of you like me that haven't unlocked Bo-Katan yet, again, need to save Omicron for her. So it seems like for all these Omicrons that are a little bit useful, like Rose, Saw, those are the ones I've been thinking anyways. Just I never seem to find opportunity to do this. For all others, I'm not sure how useful they would be for me personally, but according to data, they are useful for many of you out there. Okay, so thank you for watching this mini series of top 10 rankings for Omicrons. Let me know what kind of rankings you would still like to see. I have a couple of more ideas for these Omicron ranking videos. I just have to again put data together and a little bit see what kind of ranking lists I can pull out. But let me know your ideas, what you would like to see in terms of rankings for Omicrons, and I can see what I can do. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. But until then, have fun, enjoy your life, and may the RNG be with you, my friends.